How's it, everybody? Today I'm joined with Peter. You might know him as Pez. He's the creator of Calva.
Awesome. Peter? Thank you for bringing me here.
Today we're going to make a video which I'm really excited about. It's about how the REPL works. You made Calva, so that's your thing. What REPL is, what nREPL is, how to start a ClojureScript project and a REPL, how to start a Clojure project with the REPL, and how the REPL works with those kinds of projects. So if you're interested in that, this is the video for you. Here I've got just a blank directory, and let's turn this into a Clojure and ClojureScript project. So you use shadow-cljs and use deps.edn to create your projects.
If it's just a front end, then I only need shadow-cljs most often. Right? It's a server involved, a Clojure server, then I go for deps.edn too.
So which should we start off with now?
I think it makes sense to start this as a shadow-cljs project. Like create a shadow-cljs.
So we create a shadow-cljs.edn file, and this is where all the configuration for shadow-cljs will sit.
Exactly. You most often have like a build, an app configured in there. So you have builds, and also if only shadow-cljs is involved, then you manage the source paths and the dependencies as well.
Should we do that from the start? Should we do that and then? So you said
we can do that. We can start like that.
Source paths. So this is basically telling shadow-cljs where our ClojureScript sits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, where our namespaces are anchored in a way, like so you can say source there. I guess as common.
So if we do source here, then we should make a new folder and call it source. Should we configure a build?
Yeah. So configure build.
So
I guess app is the most common thing to call it.
And then this takes in another map.
Yeah.
And cool. So here we would add. I know we would add a target. And this is and then what should we target? Because we can target node and we can target browser.
Let's make it a browser project then.
What does this actually impact, this target browser?
Shadow-cljs can create something that targets a node script, and it can create something that targets a node library, a JS file that you can require from your JavaScript or TypeScript application. So I guess what target browser means is that shadow-cljs will bundle the compiled output in a way that suits the browser.
Okay, cool. And I know that with the build, we're going to need to say like where the output is going to sit. So
yeah,
should we just make this in out?
Out works, yeah.
I also know put modules here. Oops, needs to be a keyword. This splits what JavaScript files are actually created.
Yeah, exactly. So you can split the code into several modules. If that's like an entire video of its own, I guess that we should maybe make. But you can do something called code splitting. For most applications, when they start, I guess they started with no code splitting and just one, and then I think one main module, and then you only configure like the init function in that one.
This main takes in another map, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't actually remember the configuration.
I think this takes in. So this main keyword is the name of the file that gets outputted to out. So we'll have at the end of the day a main.js, and then inside of here we can either just load in a file, or we can start by having like an initial function run. So I don't know, what should we start with?
Since we are not doing code splitting, it makes sense to just have the init function, because this you can use entries instead and tell it an entry namespace or several entry namespaces. That is mostly useful for code splitting. And since we're not doing code splitting, so just do an init fn.
So init fn, and then we need to add a namespace. So now we don't have any namespaces in our project. So should we just make like a simple ClojureScript file?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's go to source, a new file. Should I just call this core.cljs?
Yeah, or if you want to make it a main namespace of main, maybe you can do that as well.
So main core.cljs. So then, okay, so didn't create. So then we'll go namespace and we'll call this main.core. And now we can like define an init function here. What should we do? Run
yeah, so yeah, you can just log something maybe.
Okay, so js console log init client. Okay, cool. So now we have an init function, and this is not a func. This shouldn't be in brackets. Cool.
Yeah, and then you want this init function to be exported as well, but you can define it here as first.
Okay, yeah. So to export it, we just add this metadata export, and it will export this function.
Then it won't be munched and stuff like that, so you can call it.
Cool. And then here we go and add app.core / init.
Was it main.core rather, maybe?
Sorry, main.core.
We could, of course, have named the namespace app.
And I think yeah, main.core. Is this enough for us to get going?
I don't know, but we can try it like this and see if it works.
So I'm going to use Calva to start this REPL. So Calva, start a project REPL, and then select shadow-cljs. Maybe it's worthwhile at this point, seeing as we're talking about REPLs. We got different project types here. So there's like babashka, MBB, joyride, shadow-cljs. What are the differences between all of these?
For Calva, it will always present babashka, MBB, and joyride as options for you, because they are like generally like useful in your workflow. Maybe even if you might not even be working with a Clojure project, you can just fire up a babashka REPL and support your work. But then shadow-cljs shows up here because you have a shadow-cljs.edn file in the project. So if Calva sees that file, it will say, okay, you can actually start this as a shadow-cljs project, and then it will do a lot of magic around that. So it will start shadow-cljs, which in turn will start an nREPL server, and Calva will connect to that nREPL server.
I also just want to know, because I've done a project with babashka and with MBB, but I haven't done anything with joyride. What is?
You should.
Is it just another runtime? What is a?
So yes, let's see. So MBB and babashka are both using the small Clojure interpreter that Borgtud has written. So that is like interpreted Clojure rather than compiled Clojure. And joyride does that as well. It's also using this small Clojure interpreter. But what it is it is a VS Code extension that lets you script VS Code from user space. So you can create ClojureScript scripts that takes control and manages VS Code, and it gives you a REPL, a ClojureScript REPL into VS Code. So it's quite amazing. I would say I'm biased, but I think it's super.
Did you make it?
Me and Borgtud made it actually.
Oh wow!
So it's inspired a lot by Emacs. So people using Emacs, a lot of those people use Emacs because it will let you script your own editor using eLisp in that case. But in this case, it will let you script VS Code, but with a much nicer language like ClojureScript.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to make a video. You and Borgtud. That would be awesome.
I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so now we're just gonna start a shadow-cljs REPL, and then we're connecting to our app build, which is this setup here.
You didn't click app there.
Yeah, I gotta click it and then click OK. Cool. So now I suppose there's a few things that we could discuss here.
Yeah, so it says shadow-cljs is not installed in your project, which you're running shadow-cljs using npx here, or rather Calva is doing that here. So you should probably fix that.
But also,
And,
also here we have to select which build to connect to. So what's the difference between the first
So
selection?
you started the Calva read the shadow-cljs file and saw that you had a build called app there, and then you selected to start that build. That will start the shadow-cljs server, and the watcher will be watching this app build for changes and recompile stuff when you save stuff. And now you are connecting the ClojureScript REPL, and then Calva wants to know which build should it connect the REPL to, because you could have started 2 builds, and also now you have started just 1 build. You can still connect the REPL to a general node REPL.
Okay.
Or you can connect it to a general browser REPL.
Would you ever target a browser and then select node REPL here? Would that make any sense?
Not for working with the app. Then you will actually connect to the app build. But you could be like just wanting to fire off some code against Node just to test stuff or whatever, and then it makes sense to connect to the node REPL. But this is not this last time you have in Calva to choose this. You can connect to the app REPL here, and then if you want to fire off some tests against Node, then you can switch to the node REPL while you're working.
Okay.
You can
you
can evaluate stuff against it.
Okay, we'll look at how to do that just now.
So now we see also one thing here, that we don't have a development web server set up, right?
Yeah. So we can't.
Shadow has an excellent option for that. So you can configure it to start a development web server, or you can use Nginx or whatever, of course. But it's very easy to configure Shadow to provide it for you.
So basically, we have this out folder with our JavaScript and everything needed for CLJS to work, but we don't have any way to serve it.
No, and you don't have an index HTML to reach either. So it's.
Just before we continue that, I want to just go on to this. What's happening here? Because this is the first line. I assume Calva is executing this for us. This npx shadow CLJS. So
exactly. And you see there that it starts the watcher on app. That's what watch app means.
Is that watching for any changes to any namespaces we add to this main.core, or is it
as
watching
source path is probably
so any changes that happen in source will be reflected. Okay.
And also changes to shadow-cljs actually, but also to the shadow-cljs configuration. It actually has hot reload of that configuration as well.
Oh, cool. Okay. So. Okay.
And if you look at that command line that Calva is firing off here, it says -d and then cider nREPL and a version of that. So that will inject a dependency on cider nREPL version 0.28.5 into the project. So you don't need to have that dependency in the project. You don't have any dependency right now in the project, but you don't need to have the cider nREPL dependency in the project, because Calva will inject it like this on the command line.
So why would we need this dependency?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So Calva needs to be able to talk to the REPL that's running. I mean, to talk to your application. So maybe we should actually start with the REPL. So it's not. It's like we make one thing clear. nREPL and the REPL, the Clojure REPL, are totally different things. Very similarly named, but they are not the same. So the REPL is like a way for you to interact with your application. You can modify it, and you can inspect it, and you can test it using the REPL. Stuff that you do in your videos all the time. So that's what we can do. So when a development of a Clojure application starts, there's like a program in the JVM that can read Clojure code, and it can compile it, and it can run your application. So this program is like, of course, very important both when you deploy and when you develop Clojure application. But also this program goes nowhere when your application is running. It actually stays there. And your application has the potential of being partly or fully recompiled and redefined while it is running. This is like the magic of Lisp and Clojure. And so what if this program could be asked to read some Clojure code and compile it and run it while it's running? And it can. So that is what the REPL is. The REPL is another program. That's an optional part of your application. And it provides this means that you can send code to the REPL, and it will send this to this program that reads the code and can compile it and evaluate it and modify or inspect your application.
So if I were to like visualize this, with this, I'm just gonna let's just open like a blank file. So would you say that it's like there's like REPL, and then on top of the REPL there's like an nREPL?
Yeah, so the nREPL is the next thing then, because when you have the REPL running, that then Calva or the tooling needs a way to speak to this REPL, and nREPL is one way to do that. And what happens then is that another program that's starting in the same process as your application, and its REPL is running, and this is the nREPL server.
So nREPL and nREPL server aren't the same?
nREPL is the protocol and the server, so that's nREPL.
Okay.
So it's a protocol by which you can speak to the REPL.
Okay, and then so it basically
and you can send the REPL messages, and thus the REPL server will reply.
So we'll do something
with one or more messages.
We'll do something like this. So
yeah, exactly.
Wait, is this? I'm gonna just type out something and like you tell me if it's an accurate depiction. Excuse my like. And then so
I think it's very accurate. And you have Calva. Yeah.
So Calva is this part. It sends the messages to the nREPL, which sends it on to the REPL, and then VS Code would sit at the end. So
yeah. Calva sits in, but I wouldn't say VS Code sends anything to Calva.
Well,
but it's
oh, okay.
But it depends on what you're trying to depict. But the other one here is actually showing. If you turn that. So if I just squint here, don't see the VS Code thing. It actually shows what's happening.
Let me just get rid of the VS Code.
It shows that Calva is sending stuff to the nREPL servers, which sends it to the REPL. The REPL evaluates this, and then it will send it back to the nREPL server, which will send it back, will package it and send it back to Calva in a message. There is a log in Calva that can show this. Maybe we should
look at that. Yeah,
we should do that. I think we're not really ready to do it with this project yet. But if you open up a new VS Code window,
well, I think if we should be able to evaluate in here, can't we?
I don't think so. You don't have
it needs to connect to a browser.
Yeah, the application needs to be running in the browser, and we don't have this index HTML and haven't, there is no application running.
So let's get our application running, and then we can look at the messages being sent, because it should.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. But anyway, so if we then continue with what nREPL is this protocol and this server that sits between the editor and the REPL, and
that's how we start a server here.
Yeah, it's not the nREPL server. You see, that's that on that port, and it has connected to that port. So if you would open a Clojure file now, you could actually evaluate stuff to that Clojure REPL.
File. Okay.
Yeah, you can call it server.
Okay, yeah, let's call it server. Let's call it server.clj.
Yeah.
And then
and now,
let's
yeah. So then you ns main.server, I guess. And if you load this file in Calva, exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't show the output
Let's open the
window
output.
somewhere.
Evaluating file server.clj.
Yeah, so if you open that in a split view, then you can actually see it like that, exactly. And now, if you would evaluate some Clojure expression here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, this is.
You need to switch to the dark theme.
Yeah,
I remember this.
Yeah, this is a.
I think it's a bug in this code actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you see that you have connection to Clojure REPL, and now we can actually show this log between nREPL, Calva, if you like. So there's a command that says if you search for nREPL in the command palette, there, diagnosis nREPL logging enable.
Cool.
Choose that command. It should open an output window here and show you what's going on. So now if you would evaluate that thing again,
evaluate.
There, you can see there that it's sent somewhere. It sends.
Here we go. Yeah, sent.
It sends this op. So this is the protocol how nREPL is set up. It sends a message which is like a dictionary, and each message has an ID and it has an op. And eval is the most like common and important op here, and it sends also with eval. It sends the code that should be evaluated, and send then some pretty printer options and stuff like that. And so that goes to the REPL server. Now the REPL server will take this op, see it needs to evaluate it, and will send the code to the REPL, and then it will send back a few messages. One of these messages will contain the result.
So he has the value too.
Exactly. So that's the same ID as the one
and then
was sent.
Done.
Done. Yeah. So
That's
Calva will
awesome.
wait for these two messages and then show you the results. That's what's going on. It's similar to the thing you tried to draw there.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So that's cool to visualize. Let's continue sorting out that server. So should we try and get that development server started?
Yeah. So you can put HTTP server, I think it is.
Isn't it dev HTTP?
Dev HTTP. You're right. Yeah.
Dev HTTP, and then I just made a video on this last night, so
okay, cool.
I'm cheating here.
You need a port. You need a port.
Let's start at port 4000, and then we just need a directory to serve out of. So we can serve straight
out then, I guess.
Yeah, serve straight out of our out directory, and then inside of here we're going to need an index.html file.
Yeah.
So let's just create that, and let's just do the VS Code templating, and then let's. Hello. Cool. This is an awesome project so far.
see if you have something in the jack-in terminal now. So if you show the terminal, you see here that Shadow actually saw that you configured the server, and it has started the server already for you. It's hot reloading the configuration.
Oh, and yeah, now it says, okay, so notice there's a development server.
It's
and
pretty
now
amazing, I would say, actually, what is going on there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
No.
So let's follow through to here and see what we got. Cool.
Yeah, so that it's serving,
So,
but now it's not doing anything with.
yeah, so we're not actually loading our JavaScript. So if we go back to our index.html, we should just be able to load our script in here. Right? It will serve it. We'll change the source is out/main.js. So we don't need out here. It's being served from this directory. So we can just go main.js. Because this is the directory that's being served.
Try to reload this in the browser and see what happens. Yeah?
Cool.
So in the client, you see in the client there, right? So that is great.
Cool. We've seen this, but I think we kind of stepped over one thing, which I want to get back to. It was we have a server.clj file here that we were using. We were just evaluating in here. Well, this has to be evaluated. This has to be evaluated. So this is working, but shadow-cljs is a ClojureScript tool. So how did that work?
Yeah, exactly. So if you go to core.cljs now, so when you started this REPL, you told Shadow to start this app build and watch it, but then you also told Calva to connect to the app build REPL. So that small piece is running in the browser. For a ClojureScript application, it's still being compiled. The ClojureScript code is still being compiled on the JVM. It's still a Clojure program that's compiling, but what the end result of that compilation is JavaScript code, and this JavaScript code needs to then be sent to the browser.
We have we'll have CLJS, and that gets compiled
on the JVM.
On JVM, and that gets compiled to
JavaScript. Yeah.
To JavaScript. Then does Calva handle it from here?
No, it's not really like that. But if we leave Calva out of the picture for now, so this JavaScript needs to be sent to the browser and loaded by the browser in order to modify your application, right? There is a program running in the browser, like side by side or in your application. I actually don't know how to picture that, but it's running in the browser, and it's ready to take this JavaScript code and evaluate it.
Is it this?
I actually don't know what. I never thought about what it is, but this has nothing to do with shadow-cljs or anything. It is just like how a ClojureScript program gets compiled and loaded in the browser. So you still have the compilation happening on the JVM, and the REPL is also still running on the JVM, and the result of the compilation is JavaScript code that needs to be sent to the browser, and then in the browser it can load this code and reload and redefine your application. So when nREPL comes into the picture, you send the code from Calva to the nREPL server. That's the same here, but then there is something that's needed for nREPL not to send this code to the Clojure compiler. It needs to send it to the ClojureScript compiler instead. So that there's something there that sends this code instead to the ClojureScript compiler. And then the ClojureScript compiler compiles this to JavaScript. And in this case, we're using shadow-cljs. So shadow-cljs will send this compiled JavaScript to the browser.
Is that so? This part is shadow-cljs will compile on the JVM this ClojureScript compile on JVM to JavaScript, and Calva is Calva sending this to shadow-cljs?
Calva is sending it to the nREPL server.
Okay, so it sends to nREPL,
and then something sends this to the ClojureScript compiler,
which is shadow-cljs.
In this case, it is something in shadow-cljs that does it. But for other ClojureScript projects like Vanilla, ClojureScript, or Figwheel, then there is a middleware called Piggyback that does this.
Okay.
So this something, you can have shadow-cljs there if you like, is then sending this to the ClojureScript compiler, compiling this to JavaScript. And then, again, shadow-cljs, the shadow-cljs server has a WebSocket open to the application that is running in the browser. The application you are developing is opening a WebSocket to the shadow-cljs server, and through that WebSocket, shadow-cljs can send this JavaScript to redefine the application that is running. And then this is evaluated in this small evaluator program that's running in the browser. Okay. And then the stuff goes back. So this result of the evaluation will go back to the shadow-cljs server. It will go back to this relay, which will go back to directly to the nREPL server, and then Calva will get it back. I think I sent you some
you sent me some notes around this. Let's look at this. Yeah.
So here you can see in the Clojure case, it's pretty simple. Like the editor sends the code to the nREPL server, which sends it to the Clojure REPL. It evaluates it, and then the result travels back to the nREPL server and then to the editor. So that's pretty simple. But in the ClojureScript case, it's a bit more complicated. So you have code in the editor, you send that to the nREPL server, something, piggyback or shadow-cljs then, relays it to the ClojureScript compiler, which compiles it to JavaScript, and then the shadow-cljs server will get it, and that it will send it to this evaluator that's running in the JavaScript environment. And that will evaluate this code, and the result will be like a new version of the application maybe, but it will also be a result from the evaluation, and that one will travel back to the shadow-cljs server and to that relay piggyback thing or shadow-cljs, and then back to the nREPL server, and then back to the editor. So it's a longer trip here.
One thing I noticed is that shadow-cljs is it seems like it's preferred over Figwheel.
I don't think that's correct that it's preferred over Figwheel.
Okay.
I think some people prefer it over Figwheel, and some people prefer Figwheel. It's a bit philosophical, maybe, what suits you. For me, shadow-cljs is certainly my choice. Okay, you can see that on Calva in a sense, right? It's a one tool that takes care of a lot of things. It's not something you pick together. So that's a whole old philosophical school that people just do small things and then they compose those things into something bigger, and that's something I certainly do at sometimes as well. But when it comes to this tooling, I like that Calva is not telling the user to compose their development environment. Instead, it says, okay, I take care of all this with you. And for me, shadow-cljs does that for my ClojureScript development. It takes care of everything, the npm stuff, the whole project and everything. And so but Figwheel is a much simpler tool, in a sense, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. Right, the difference between simple and easy, so it's not that easy to use as shadow-cljs, I think, for beginners or stuff like that. So, but shadow-cljs is much more less a simple tool, but it takes care of and holds your hand.
I want to actually you said something there about the npm packages. I can't close this. You said that shadow-cljs will actually handle your npm packages for you. So what is the link between shadow-cljs and npm?
These days, actually, the ClojureScript compiler can do a lot of this, something called bundle or something like that inside there. So I think that these days Shadow is actually using that, and I'm not actually sure how it does, but there was a time at least when the ClojureScript compiler didn't support this very well, and then shadow-cljs took care of taking this npm module and packaging it in a way that you could use in your ClojureScript application with just a very similar require statement as you would require a ClojureScript library. You can require an npm library, and shadow-cljs will take care of placing this code in the right place and making stuff callable from your application, and everything around that. It's a bit like Webpack in a way.
Okay.
Some of what Webpack does for you. shadow-cljs, I guess.
I think that we could probably with that figure out this warning here. So it's saying that CLJS is not installed in the project, but we are using shadow-cljs.
Yeah, you're using with the npx, right? So you don't actually need it to run the executable, but shadow-cljs actually wants it to be installed in the project. We don't even have a package JSON here in this app. So we're actually showing now that you don't need that. You don't need a package JSON. Certainly, if you're going to use something from npm, then you need a package JSON.
Okay, yeah. So let's just add one quickly so we can show how to get rid of this warning. All we need to do is npm init y, and that will just make this, just give us this package.json file, and then
awesome.
install the dev dependency of shadow-cljs. And then I think here, okay, so this won't rebuild now. We'll have to restart the REPL to get rid of that warning.
Yeah, the warning is already issued. So if you restart REPL, I don't think you can restart the shadow-cljs REPL without killing it first. So you should do your Control-C.
Oh, okay. So Control-C, and then start a project REPL, shadow-cljs, connect to app, and then no more. It's just, and then here, okay, updating dependencies updated. So that was new, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't show that before, but anyway. It also starts this development console for you on 9633.
Oh, so this, okay, so let's go there.
Yeah, so here you can see the runtimes that are involved. So here you can see that we have this Clojure runtime. We still have a Clojure thing running on the JVM here, but we also have our build here. That's also another runtime. You have going there. You have it also shows you the active server.
So this is a Clojure runtime. This one here.
That is the Clojure runtime. So you can actually probably show that by this Control Enter.
Control. Oh, there it did eval too.
So you have. So now, if you would try to do something like JS alert here, you would see that it's not running. This is not a JavaScript REPL.
JS alert. Hello. And Control Enter. Cool.
So there's no namespace JS here. But if you would do this towards the other runtime.
So let's go back. This runtime. Let's go to explore runtime. Cool. And then let's do JS alert. Hey. And Control Enter.
Yeah, maybe you need to go to the other tab and see.
Oh yeah, okay, it's running. It's executing here.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's the two.
Cool. So
two REPLs you have here.
So then,
and here you also have a stream.
Inspect stream.
Yeah, and that's the tap history. So you can use this ClojureScript tooling called tap. You can tap out values to a tap listener. Shadow-cljs sets up one of those listeners for you. So if you tap from the REPL,
so then if we go back to this project,
then you will see that in this console here.
I've never tapped before, so let's do that.
Cool.
So
this is the server, right? So you have here you have the CLJS. So here, if you would do tap, with the arrow, and then you can. This needs a value. You can tap a string, or you can tap whatever. Just the value.
And then if I evaluate this, and then I go back,
the result will be true. That will, but here you will see it being. I don't know why it came 2 times here, but maybe I actually don't know why you have 2 here. But anyway, you see that entering up here.
Okay, cool.
So it's very good for debugging.
Cool. Okay. So one thing which I don't know if we covered is, so we can evaluate expressions in server.clj, and that I'm assuming now is because if we go back to these applications, we have a JVM runtime and we have a browser runtime, and the reason we have the JVM runtime is because that's where the nREPL is running. Yeah,
and the REPL. And I mean the Clojure REPL and the ClojureScript compiler and
basically everything. is running.
Basically everything except the application and this small evaluator thing. I think that's actually those things that are running in the browser, and this small evaluator thing that can speak back to shadow-cljs server. But the shadow-cljs server and the rest is running on the JVM.
Cool. Let's then integrate deps.edn as well. So if we want a deps.edn project, it's because with shadow-cljs, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't install Clojure dependencies. It's only ClojureScript or JavaScript dependencies, right?
Actually, you can manage Clojure dependencies as well. I mean, shadow-cljs is called shadow-cljs for a reason. I would just think that is just like it's meant to hold your hand with your ClojureScript project. Even if it can do a lot of this Clojure thing as well, I think I would rather use dep.edn for that part. I mean, it's certainly possible to use it for Clojure as well, but I think you would.
A more common structure is
yeah.
shadow-cljs with a deps.edn. So mixing these two projects together.
Exactly.
So I've also noticed, one thing I've noticed is that if we just have a deps.edn file, save this, now we can start a deps.edn REPL.
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah, so
it's going to start it, sorry.
So, yeah, cool. That's actually excellent. You should actually show how simple a deps.edn config can actually be and still work. I mean, now you have a Clojure REPL running, and you can go into server. Maybe you need the source path actually for that to work.
Well, I think shadow-cljs is still running.
No, it's still running, but you are connected to the Clojure REPL that you started here. Calva can only handle one Clojure session at a time in a VS Code window. We said this, that Calva will start if you use Calva Jack-in, Calva can start the project for you like it does here, and then it can connect its nREPL client to the nREPL server that is started there. But for each VS Code window, Calva can only connect to one nREPL server at a time. And in this nREPL server, it will start 1 or 2 nREPL sessions. All this communication that we'll be looking at between nREPL and Calva is going on in an nREPL session. What Calva does for the ClojureScript project is that it first create an nREPL session when it connects. That is its Clojure REPL session. And then it will clone that nREPL session to a new Clojure REPL session. And then it will promote, as I call it, this Clojure REPL to a ClojureScript REPL. And promote it means gluing it together, as we saw with the ClojureScript compiler and this middleware that will have the ClojureScript compiler do the compilation instead, all that stuff. So you will get a ClojureScript REPL in one of the nREPL sessions. Calva has 2 in a ClojureScript project. Calva has 2 nREPL sessions, one for Clojure and one for ClojureScript. When you connected to this Clojure program now here, I think actually what you did was kill the shadow-cljs process and start this one instead. You can see that if you go to the browser and try to reload the application there. It already see the WebSocket not connected.
Yeah, yeah, okay, it's dead.
So when you're setting up a full stack project like we are trying to do now here, you have like a choice, and you can have the front end as its own project, its own shadow-cljs project, and you manage all the front end dependencies and everything in shadow-cljs. Then when you work with that project, you work with that project in one VS Code window, and it will start a Clojure REPL and a ClojureScript REPL and work with that project. But then you want to work with the backend code, you will start another VS Code window and connect that REPL to the backend code. So now you have this one connected to the backend, if you like, and then you could, in another VS Code window, you could connect to the shadow-cljs one. But to do that, VS Code won't open 2 windows on the same folder. So then you would actually need to use workspaces in VS Code to achieve that. So you can open the same folder in 2 windows if you use workspaces. Calva documentation has a little piece about that, how you would do that if you want to work with that. What I mostly want to do is that I want to use Calva's 2 sessions for the full stack projects. I want to use the Clojure session for my backend code, and I want to use the ClojureScript REPL for my front-end code. And in order to do that, then you need to set up your project so that the back-end and the front-end is handled by the same Clojure process. And as we said, that we don't want to do that all with Clojure, with shadow-cljs. I would like to do that back-end development using dep.edn. And then you would also have the front-end dependencies in dep.edn. And then you start the Clojure REPL using the dep.edn tooling, the Clojure program. Then that one, in turn, can start shadow-cljs for you. So that's one way to do it. And there is also another way you can have it in one window. And that is to start everything with shadow-cljs executable. It's in this npm module. And it can, in turn, choose to start the Clojure program using Clojure. Instead of starting itself, it will say, tell Clojure to start. And then it will also tell Clojure to, you handle the dependencies and the source path. I have nothing to do with it.
Okay.
If you, in the shadow-cljs config here, enter deps true at the root level.
Yeah.
And now you connect to the REPL using shadow-cljs. Like that.
Okay.
It will say here, shadow-cljs, I'm starting this via Clojure. So it will actually use Clojure to start this Clojure REPL. It will not start it itself. It will use Clojure. But then now we run into that this Clojure program knows nothing about the shadow-cljs dependency. So you need to add the shadow-cljs dependency to dep.edn.
Okay, so let's do that. So go to deps.edn, and to add deps to deps.edn, we just say deps. And then we need the actual deps.
Heller / shadow-cljs.
Oh, okay.
And then you can take the same version as you have in the package JSON.
Cool. So th
heller
/ shadow-cljs, and then we need the version.
I think it's heller. Yeah, I think so. And then
2.19.9.
Yeah, 2.9.
This needs to be nvn / version. Cool. So this, now we should have enough to start our project.
I would actually add a source path here as well.
Okay. Let's close this, and then so this needs a path directory, and then the path would be source.
Is it path? Yeah, it's not source. Okay, maybe source path is in lining it. Yeah, so path source, exactly.
And then I think connect to build.
And now you don't get that error with shadow-cljs because you have satisfied that dependency.
And we also get this warning here.
You will get this warning because you still have source path and deps configured in the shadow-cljs app.
So we can actually just get rid of that if we go here and we get rid of this.
Oh, exactly, we didn't have dependencies. Yeah. So now we say use Clojure to
now. And then we'll still need to connect to our app.
Yeah.
We go back, and now we should be able to run Clojure. Well, now what I'll if we go back to localhost 4000, this would be running. Yeah, it's running again.
Yeah, it's running again. And if you look in the shadow-cljs console, you will see that it has these two runtimes, the Clojure runtime and the ClojureScript runtime. But this time, the Clojure runtime will have it started by this Clojure executable instead. So that's one way to do it. But if you kill this REPL and you jack in again, so you see it has dep.edn because it has found that you have a dep.edn file here, right? Yeah. So you can start this as a solely a Clojure program, and then it knows that you sometimes use this together with Shadow, Figwheel, and stuff like that. It actually doesn't care to look for Figwheel files here or wherever. Everything, it just present that as an option. So it says you have dep.edn plus shadow-cljs. So what's that?
Yeah.
This is when we said use shadow-cljs to start the project. If we would choose that one, then shadow-cljs will see deps true. Okay, I start this with Clojure, and Clojure will require the shadow-cljs stuff and start shadow-cljs in its turn, right? I say the shadow-cljs server. So it's a bit of ping pong. But if you would use deps.edn plus shadow-cljs here, you would tell Calva start Clojure and then start shadow-cljs from that REPL. So you can if you select that option there, you see now it's not shadow-cljs on the command line here. It's Clojure, and it will have the cider dependency, and it will have the cider nREPL middleware, and it will also have the shadow-cljs dev tools nREPL middleware. That's this something that sometimes is like a piggyback for other ClojureScript environment. For shadow-cljs, it is this middleware. Calva will inject that middleware for you, and then start the stuff here. You should now be able to go to the core.cljs file. Now, I don't think the ClojureScript app that we are developing is actually running yet. So if you try to load this file,
so load and evaluate current file.
It should say in the Calva output, where is that?
It's here.
It should say that there is no JS runtime available. So you need to reload the app in the browser first.
So let's do that.
There. Now this important piece of this JavaScript evaluator thing is running, and now this REPL is connected to.
So we could
if you
now
load this file now.
Check the output.
So that's the result of your evaluation, and you should see the tap having happened in the run in the
console. Let's go. We can go check that out. See.
Seems like this WebSocket doesn't it? Yeah, you see it there.
Cool.
Which one would you want to use? The shadow-cljs way to start this, or the Clojure way to start this? And the difference in Calva is that when you start this with shadow-cljs, and shadow-cljs in turn uses Clojure to start it, then shadow-cljs output will be in the jack-in terminal. That is good for, like, if you have shadow-cljs test runner running, it will have the results for the tests in the jack-in terminal, and then you can place that jack-in terminal in a way so you can see when you change stuff that you tested running, stuff like that. But if you use the deps.edn plus shadow-cljs way to start this, then all this output will actually go to the Calva output window instead, and mix up with your results and stuff like that. So I prefer, in my case, actually to use shadow-cljs to starting instead of deps.edn plus shadow-cljs. But it is otherwise equivalent. What we could do if we want is to show what happens when Calva is turning a Clojure REPL into a ClojureScript REPL. In Calva, you say, give me the jack-in command for starting. So instead of starting Clojure,
we ask for how Calva would start it.
Yeah, so you can say, if you type copy here, you have copy jack-in command to clipboard. If you use that, and then choose deps.edn plus shadow-cljs, why not?
Okay.
Now you have the jack-in command on your clipboard, and now you have it here, so you can run it, and this will start.
Started, yeah. Starts the
nREPL server. Now you could connect Calva here if you would like, and it shows the same thing and have things working. Because this is actually what. Yeah, we can try that first.
So let's connect to Calva to a
running REPL in
server.
Exactly.
And then
you say deps.edn plus shadow-cljs.
And then it's choosing this nREPL port 38609. That's fine.
Yeah. And now it's connected.
Cool. And now we can evaluate.
And you can evaluate if you first reload the app in the browser. You can evaluate stuff to the ClojureScript.
Okay, cool.
So this is how a lot of people run their projects, so they don't have to kill the REPL if they need to reload the VS Code window.
Yeah. So if I ran this in my system terminal,
if you reload the VS Code window now, the REPL will survive that.
It would survive even if I close. But even though this is in the
it's not if you close it, if you reload it. At least on Mac it does that. So if you command
so if I installed an extension or something, okay.
Yeah, but there's also command for it.
I've never done this. I've never done it before. I've never had
developer reload window. It's called in the command palette.
Developer reload window.
Yeah. This trace you get here is a bug in Calva, but it doesn't really matter. It still works.
So I could still then go to source server.clj, and then I've written this line. Oops.
You need to connect to the REPL first, yeah.
Oh yeah, connect. So then connect to a running REPL server. It should be the same port.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't. And then I can evaluate this. Obviously I have to evaluate the namespace, and then cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that's good to know that you can do that. But now, if you kill this REPL and start this program again, I think you should have it in the copy.
Oh, okay. Copy this.
That one, yeah, exactly. And if we start the REPL, the Clojure REPL for you, and then we want to connect to this nREPL server, using an nREPL client, but we're not going to use Calva now. We just do you have Liningen installed?
Yeah.
So if you split this terminal and you say line REPL :connect, like that, exactly.
Cool.
So now it's connecting because Liningen has an nREPL client, and it's connecting to the nREPL server that Clojure has started here.
Oh, cool. So now we're actually connected to our project.
Exactly. And what you could do now is try to convert this into a ClojureScript REPL.
Okay.
This nREPL session, you want it to be a ClojureScript nREPL session.
Okay.
And then, let's see here. I made a project that's called Shadow with Backend. So you go to GitHub/pes. So yeah, repositories. That one, Shadow with Backend. So in this README, so people can go here and play with this as well, but we can show it. We did it with dep.edn, right?
Yeah.
And we have connected to the REPL. Here I do it with Clojure.
Okay.
But you can do it with, like you did with Liningen instead. And then starting shadow-cljs, you go down.
Here we go.
Here.
Let me just.
Here. Exactly. So if you copy that do require code.
And then go back here. Paste it in here.
Paste it there, and we can just read it what it does.
Oh, sorry.
We did it. That's okay. But we require the Shadow Dev Tool server, and on that one we started it. So that's now we have started shadow-cljs, and you see that you recognize this output, right? That it has started this web server for you, and it also starts nREPL server, but you don't need to bother with that. But now if you go to your application,
it will be running.
It won't be running.
Oh.
And you see here, stale output, it's not running. This is old output you have here.
Okay.
Because you haven't started the watcher yet.
Okay.
The shadow-cljs watcher, which compiles the app and starts the watcher. So if you go back to the repository.
Yeah.
Start the shadow-cljs watcher, you see the next.
Okay, cool.
So it requires, again, in this time, the DevTools API. It then starts watch on the app. So this is what happened when you say shadow-cljs watch app. That's actually what shadow-cljs is.
The one thing I also, you have to make sure that your build is named the same as app. Otherwise, this is the build name, right?
This is the build name, yeah. We have named the build the same in our case.
Ours would work.
Very good.
So let's go back and let's do this here. Enter. Now it's compiling, and so if we go back to our project, cool.
You know that. Now you get to it because now the app is rebuilt and the watcher is running, but you still don't have a connection to it from your REPL, right? If you go back to the prompt, you see this is still a Clojure REPL, but now you have what's needed to connect a ClojureScript REPL, because now you have the app running with this JavaScript thing there that can evaluate new application code and talk to shadow-cljs.
Yeah.
So that is running now. You just need to connect to it. So you go back to my project there with the example code. You have started the watcher and you have started the app by reloading it in the web browser.
Yeah.
Then you can attach the ClojureScript REPL. So that will use the shadow-cljs DevTools API again.
Cool.
And then we'll call this nREPL select app on it.
Okay.
If you do that, the magic will happen. Boom.
So now I should be able to
now it has selected
/alert.
Exactly.
Okay. Evaluate this, then on
go to the app
project.
There.
Cool. That's awesome. That's really cool.
And you need to submit here in order to get the prompt back.
Yeah, then it'll be the
you have the
responses
prompt
now.
back here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
cool.
This is something you probably won't be doing, but it's good to know that Calva is doing this, and it's not doing anything else. Actually, it's just doing evaluating these forms on the Clojure REPL. So it will start the shadow-cljs and it will start the watcher, and it will then attach to the ClojureScript REPL, and then the REPL will have turned into a ClojureScript REPL for you.
That's awesome.
So that's and it's also very good to know that you can, if you have some special in your project and want to automate something, you're basing it on shadow-cljs maybe, but then you have more tooling for your project, and that needs to be happening. You can create these connect sequences yourself. So if you go to calva.io in the web browser, and you can search for connect there in the search bar, you will see REPL jack-in and connect sequences there. This is what Calva does when it connects to a Clojure REPL, whether it's a Clojure and ClojureScript REPL or not. It will execute this sequence, and it has some default sequences built in, which one is called shadow-cljs and one is called dep.edn plus shadow-cljs, the ones that we've been using.
Yeah, okay.
But you can also configure them yourself.
So this start code would just run those forms that we were running now.
Exactly. So this is for Figwheel, right? Yeah, so that's one. And then you have another example with the Just-edged framework. So it's also a Figwheel main based one, but they have some special things in there. So that's how it looks for them. I don't know if there is a shadow-cljs one here, but anyway. So this is the code that we evaluated on the prompt here.
Okay, cool. So it's as if you have I suppose the cases for this aren't. I don't know. You
can have some special ClojureScript REPL, right? Like in this edge case.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so then if you have a nREPL setup that is a bit different, you can do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
That's what I'm saying. But you can also use this connect sequence to answer a few of the prompts automatically. Also to evaluate some code when the ClojureScript REPL is connected. Let's say that what the first thing you want to do when the ClojureScript, when the Clojure REPL is connected, the Clojure REPL, is to start your server, web server, your application server. You have some code that does that. Then you put that into start code here.
This is the first thing that runs once the REPL's running.
So it will just run that. So that will start your. So then you can get rid of that from your development workflow to start your server. First thing you do. Even if you don't have a special ClojureScript thing, you can still benefit from this by adding the start code here, and also to automatically select this alias and automatically select this. So the jack-in turns into jack-in, choose your REPL sequence, and boom, you're in. You don't need to answer any other thing.
That's cool. So yeah, so that means like you can come in here and I don't have to be running the REPL. So start a project REPL. If I choose shadow-cljs, I could just click this and I won't have to choose app, and I won't have to choose app.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Well, that was like that was really, really, really interesting. Thanks for joining me on this video.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I think we must do a joyride video. I'm pretty keen on that.
Yeah, we should.
Cool.
We should. That's why I have this T-shirt on.
Cool, man. So. Yeah, I need a new Calva shirt. I got mine stained. Cool.
I see.
Cheers, man.
Then you should grab yourself a joyride T-shirt as well when you're there.
Yeah, we'll do. Cheers, man. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.